Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Dennis Adegunloye. The headlines. President Bola Tinubu arrives in Nairobi, Kenya for 5th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union. National Broadcasting Commission files court application seeking to overturn judgment on powers to fine airing radio and television stations. Plus, Hollywood actors join film and television writers in protest calling for higher streaming era pay and use of artificial intelligence. President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Nairobi, Kenya to participate in the 5th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union, AU, the regional economic communities, the regional mechanisms and the African Union member states. President Tinubu is attending the meeting both as Nigerian leader as well as the new chairman of ECOWAS, one of the 8 regional economic communities. He is expected to present a report on the status of regional integration in ECOWAS, highlighting actions carried out during the period under review by ECOWAS institutions, member states, the private sector, and other stakeholders to deepen integration through trade, free movement of persons, investment promotion, infrastructure development, peace, security, and stability. The meeting, with the theme Acceleration of African Continental Free Trade Area Implementation, brings together the Bureau of the AU Assembly, comprising the heads of state and governments from Comoros, Botswana, Burundi, and Senegal, as well as the leaders of the 8 regional economic communities. The president is expected back in the country at the conclusion of the meeting. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu on Saturday in Nairobi, Kenya, called on African leaders to respect democracy, the rule of law, and to ensure political stability. The president, in his statements presented by Ambassador Adamu Ibrahim Lamua, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, at a high-level event organized by the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, on the margins of the 5th Mid-Year African Union Coordination meeting, said it was regrettable that West Africa, despite its numerous instruments and mechanisms for promoting democracy and good governance, is leading other regions in the use of unconstitutional means to change governments. He warned that the ugly trend of the military straying into the political arena is causing threats to peace, security, and stability, and engendering poverty, displacement, and humanitarian crises. While acknowledging that democracy may present challenges in terms of management and dynamics, President Tinubu reiterated that it is the best form of government for the 21st century Africa. Farmer groups, agronomists, alongside commodity merchants welcome the declaration of a state of emergency on food security by President Bola Tinubu. In this report, agriculture correspondent Musa Baba Aliu gives us an overview of the President's declaration and Nigeria's food security status.
Food security is all about availability, accessibility, and affordability of basic food by individual or a nation. Going by this definition of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, any country that cannot feed itself remains insecure.
Food security is one of the major agenda. So any nation that could not provide food to meet the needs of its populace, there is a problem.
Nigeria has over the years maintained the status of being food secured. However, recent issues relating to scarcity and high cost of input, drop in yields as a result of climate change, and impact of insecurity have plunged the country into this unpleasant state.
The major challenge we are having in the grassroots is a multiple dimensional problems. One, we are having low yielding seeds. Number 2, we are facing quite a number of diseases and pests that are affecting our crops.
Beyond that, the farmers need inputs at affordable prices. Inputs including insecticides, herbicides, and even fertilizers. What is happening today is that our farmers cannot afford fertilizers. Even 2010 that we used to buy at 5,500 before is now over 20,000. So most farmers cannot afford it.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has identified these challenges and therefore declared state of emergency on food security in the country.
Now we are now declaring food security. If the states don't have a strong buy-in in this program, it won't work. Because the lawyers talk about good intention, but that is not all you need. You need to follow it with action.
The administration also identified 3 short-term methods in addressing the situation: provision and distribution of fertilizer, expansion of areas of cultivation by additional 500,000 hectares, provision of adequate security for farmers in troubled areas. The president has directed foodstuff at the strategic grain reserve be released to cushion the effects of food inflation in the country. The next report will look at government plans for water supply for irrigation activities in line with the declaration of the state of emergency on food security. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And joining us now to shed more light on this, we have the President's Forum of Commodity Association of Nigeria in person of Sadiq Dawari. You're very welcome to NTA International Studios.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. How did you react when you heard of the President's declaration of a state of emergency on food security?
The President's statement did not come to us as a surprise because we believe in him. He is an action president, and part of his campaign promises is to make sure that he provides affordable food for Nigerians. And what is happening now is totally unacceptable. Price of food commodities is very high. A common Nigerian cannot afford. So the only thing that a working leader can do is, of course, to declare state of emergency on food security. So we believe all hands must be on deck to support His Excellency the President in achieving his own campaign promises, such as providing affordable food for Nigerians to eat.
All right, so from the position of the Forum of Commodity Association of Nigeria, how should government approach this policy to ensure its maximum success?
We are calling on all stakeholders to be honest, to be patriotic, and to be supportive in making sure that His Excellency the President realizes his own set objectives. After all what he is doing for us Nigerians, the producers who are the farmers, the input providers, the millers who are adding value to what we are producing, and of course, the merchants who are selling those commodities to Nigerians. Every one of us should be patriotic, should be honest, and we do what is right in making sure that we produce what we eat and we eat what we produce in Nigeria.
Okay, and lastly, what roles do you say can various stakeholders, including state governments, play in the effective food production, distribution, as well as pricing?
The immediate past administration has created what we call a presidential fertilizer initiative, basically to support Nigerian farmers with quality and affordable input. Input is very critical in terms of production. So we have to get input that are good, input that are affordable to farmers, so that we can produce massively for Nigerians to eat, and of course access to export to other countries of the world. But however, the present situation is critical. A purchasing power of a common Nigerians cannot be able to afford a bag of rice to eat. So in addition to providing palliative to Nigerian farmers, to Nigerians indeed, we also need both short, long, and long-term strategic plan to make sure that what President initiated is not only sustainable, but it only reflects the realities on ground.
All right, Sadiq Dawari, President, Forum of Commodity Association of Nigeria. Many thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, the latest report released by United Nations agencies reveals that the impact of years of multiple global crises since 2019 has further thrown 122 million more people into hunger. Let's get more details on this from Adebola Brooklyn Sunday.
The 2023 edition of the State of Food Security and Nutrition World Reports indicates that the COVID-19 pandemic, severe weather events and global conflicts, including the ongoing situation in Russia and Ukraine, have led to an increase in the number of people facing hunger globally. The number rose to around 735 million last year from 613 in 2019. The report says nearly 30% of the world's population, around 2.4 billion persons, did not have constant access to food in 2022, a situation the report attributed to the prevalence of moderate or severe food insecurity.
Overall, we need an intense and immediate global effort to rescue the Sustainable Development Goals. We must build resilience against the crises and shocks that drive food insecurity, from conflict to climate.
The report notes that the African continent continues to bear the burden, with 1 in 5 people going hungry, with the proportion of people who suffer from hunger being more than twice the global average. Last year, 148 million children under the age of 5 experienced stunted growth due to poor malnutrition, while 45 million children died. The latest findings have also given cause for concern that countries around the world could miss one of the United Nations' key sustainable development goals of eliminating hunger by 2030 if current developments are left unchecked. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
The state of Senegal says it is exploring its hydrocarbon deposits revenues, which has generated 20,000 billion cefas over 30 years. This corresponds to an average of 700 billion per year. The World Bank estimates that the mining of hydrocarbon deposits should double the growth of Senegal's economy, with an annual average of 9.2% in 2023 and 2024. President of Senegal, Macky Sall, was appreciative of the prospects for exploiting oil and gas resources, as growth projections are estimated to exceed 8% in 2023. President Sall says oil and gas, as well as hydrocarbons, should not be used in Senegal as a cash economy, but rather pull up other economic sectors, thus diversifying and making the economy more robust. He said the resources must not only be prudently and transparently managed for present and future generations, but also advised that as a country they must be ready for the post-oil and post-gas era. Now, bodies of at least 87 ethnic Masalit and others allegedly killed last month by rapid support forces and their allied militia in West Darfur have been buried in a mass grave outside El Jenin on the orders of the RSF. Human rights spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani revealed this in Geneva, Switzerland. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday reports.
The crisis in Sudan between the Sudanese armed forces and rapid support forces has entered its third month, with several failed ceasefires. Human rights spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani said people were forced to dispose of the bodies in a mass grave, denying those killed a decent burial in one of the city's cemeteries.
At least 37 bodies were buried on the 20th of June in a 1-meter deep mass grave. Another 50 bodies were buried on the same site the next day, including bodies of 7 women and 7 children. We're calling on the RSF and other parties to the conflict to allow prompt searches for the dead, their collection and evacuation without distinction based on ethnic background, as they are obliged to do under international law.
Shamdasani states the position of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights.
RSF's leadership and all parties to the conflict must ensure that the dead are properly handled and their dignity protected. Relief workers must be able to record all available information, including taking proper photos of the bodies and identifying the location of the graves. We call on the RSF leadership to immediately and unequivocally condemn and stop the killing of people and to end violence and hate speech against people on the basis of their ethnicity.
The clashes have triggered waves of forced displacement, both internally and to neighboring countries, including Central African Republic, Chad, Egypt, Ethiopia, Libya, and South Sudan. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. We'll have a break now. Stay with us. More reports shortly.
Nigeria means unity.
Nigeria means freedom to me.
Nigeria means greatness to me.
To Nigeria is indivisible. There is nothing you can do. We all have to savage it together and learn to love each other. We are indivisible.
As a mother and a leader, I will always preach for peace and unity in this country, because that is the only thing that will give us progress.
Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand, and it is the woman that does that.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
You're welcome back. Now, striking Hollywood actors joined film and television writers on picket lines for the first time in 63 years on Friday, cheering and chanting outside major studios with calls for higher streaming era pay and curbs on the use of artificial intelligence. Chukwunonso Nwabueze reports.
Actors take to picket lines outside studio headquarters in New York as well as other parts of United States as movie and television production grinds to a halt in the most serious Hollywood strike in decades. The twin strikes many believe will add to the economic damage from the writers' walkout that started on May 2nd, increasing the pressures facing the multi-billion-dollar media industry as it struggles with groundbreaking changes to raise business. In New York City and Los Angeles, actors marched outside the offices of Netflix, Paramount Global, and other companies voicing demands for higher compensation for working-class actors and other gains.
We're sad that it had to come to this. We love our work. That's why we choose this very difficult profession. But now's the time. If we don't do it now, we're never going to be able to have a living wage.
AI is threatened to remove real performers from the creative space. Producers want just pay less money.
Meanwhile, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, the group that negotiates on behalf of Netflix, Walt Disney and other studios, said it had offered significant increases in compensation to SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild of America members. The unions are seeking assurances that their jobs will not be replaced by generative artificial intelligence, alleging that studios had proposed paying actors for one day's work and using their digital images in perpetuity. Chukwunonso Nwabueze, NTA News.
Carry out your duty without any fear or favor to save the nation from the already hard-hitting climate change. This was the charge to members of the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on Forest Management at an operationalization workshop. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday will tell us more.
Forests in Nigeria face various challenges from deforestation, encroachment, illegal logging, wildlife trade to climate change. To address these challenges, the Federal Ministry of Environment is using a multifaceted approach through community engagement and international cooperation. The reason for constituting this interministerial joint task force, Director of Forestry Ajara Umar Sami said, is to save the forests.
Put in place whistleblowers, both from the community level, the NGOs, the CBOs, in such a way that each time any illegality is cited in the forest, we will be informed about it and we will quickly swing into action.
All the needed things that will make them to function, are also provided. Because if all those things are there, the issue of compromise will really be very, very minimal, or it will not even be there.
Members of the team assured the Ministry of Non-Compromise.
We make sure that anybody that found wanting will be punishable according to rules and regulations guiding the task force.
Without reforestation, we can't continue the business. And with the sustainability and guideline policy, we just have to key into it.
The guidelines and standards are expected to regulate the sector and ensure sustainable forest management while increasing revenue generation for the country. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
In other news, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, has filed an application before the Federal High Court, Abuja Division, asking the court to set aside its May 10, 2023 judgment, in which it issued an order of perpetual injunction restraining the Commission from further imposing fines on radio and television stations. In a motion filed on its behalf by Babatunde Ogala, SAN, the Commission is asking the court to set aside the judgment, claiming that the court lacked jurisdiction to render the verdict and that it arrived at the decision in ignorance of relevant facts. In his judgment, delivered on May 10, 2023, Justice James Omotosho ruled that fines are sanctions imposed on a person who has been found guilty of a criminal offence, and that the law in Nigeria, only courts of law are empowered to impose sanctions for criminal offences. But contrary to the finding of the judge in his judgment that the NBC was served with the originating summons on 24 February 2022 and served with several hearing notices, but failed to file any process, the Commission is alleging that the originating summons in the suit, which led to the judgment, was not served on it. Justice Omotosho has fixed a hearing of the motion for October 5th, 2023. Marketa Vondruzova of Czech Republic made history on Saturday in London as she emerged the first unseeded Wimbledon women's singles champion in the Open era. Chukunonso Mnabweze reports that the left-handed star got the better of Ons Jabeur of Tunisia in the final.
Marketa Vondruzova continued her outstanding run in this year's Wimbledon Championship as the 24-year-old Czech international secured a comfortable 6-4, 6-4 victory over 6th seed Ons Jabeur of Tunisia in the women's singles final at the centre court of the All England club. Seeded player to win the Wimbledon women's singles title in the Open era, defeating 5 seeded players en route lifting the Venus Rosewater dish.
I had a cast last year this time, so I'm just, it's amazing that I can stand here and hold this.
Africa, who has been aiming to be the first African or Arab woman to win a Grand Slam singles title, all hope is not lost.
It's going to be a tough day today for me, but I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to come back stronger and win the Grand Slam one day.
2022 edition of the tournament as a fan after missing 6 months of last season with wrist injury has now joined other tennis greats in winning the Wimbledon title. Chukunonso Mnabweze, NTA News.
And to talk more on these amazing results, we have in the studio tennis analyst Chukwubuike Onwuzurumba. Very welcome to NTA International Studios.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's been 2 weeks of quite amazing tennis with some unexpected results in this year's Wimbledon Championships. What's your take on Vondrousova's triumph over the much-fancied Ons Jabeur?
Well, first of all, I would like to give a lot of credit to the two players. Either way, history was always going to be made today, whether it was on the part of Ons Jabeur as the first Arab or African woman to have won a Grand Slam, or for Marketa Vondrousova, who was always going to be the lowest ranked player since Serena Williams for some years now, and of course the first unseeded player to win Wimbledon. So first, it's important to recognize that both players had a very tough run to these finals, and it was a great credit to them that they made it this far. My thoughts generally was that first, these big high-profile matches are decided on very fine margins, and I think today those margins fell very favorably for the Czech, who at 24 is expected to do a lot of great things. And full disclosure, I'm an Ons Jabeur fan, and I was rooting for her. But at the same time, I also recognize that both players had a very great chance at history, and we're going to go for it. It was a very, very interesting match to watch. And like I said, in the end, it was all about fine margins, and they fell for Marketa. I think for Ons Jabeur, she started quite brightly and took a 2-game lead in the first set, but somehow Marketa managed to take hold of the game and came back into it quite strongly. But in the end, credit to her, she played very well, and Ons Jabeur, I'm sure, is going to come back stronger after this.
All right, in what ways do you think Jabeur's outstanding career, she's yet to win a Grand Slam, but an outstanding career nonetheless, how can this help in the growth and development of tennis in Nigeria and Africa generally?
So she's been an inspiration really for Arab and African women generally. She's Tunisian, North American, obviously, and this in these sports, her face and her profile and her history is not a very common feature. So to see someone from Africa and Arab also to get that high up in tennis, I'm sure it's something that will inspire a lot of young players, male, female, to know that they've got a chance. If Ons Jabeur could make it as far as she has, for everyone to be inspired to know that they can get there if they put their mind to it. Ons has been around for a long time. We're only talking about her a lot today now because in the last 2 seasons at least, she's been performing quite strongly. She was at 2 Grand Slam finals last year, and now has come back. So I think she will be a big inspiration to African players generally.
Yep, and she will certainly live to fight another day. All right, Onwuzurumba, many thanks for taking the time to share your
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Up next, we have Sunday's weather prospects for Nigerian cities and other parts of the world. That concludes the news on NTA International. Many thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adegundoye.